everybody. It is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome. It is great to see everybody once again, especially my co-hosts who are always here with me. You all probably noticed that we haven't been here for a while, but that's actually going to be the topic of the day. But before I get into that, I just want to say to my constituents here, it is great to see each of you, Stacy, Cammie, and Gina. Great to see you guys again. I'm really looking forward to today's nice little catch up and wrap up of the summer because it's going to be a fun show, I think, especially because of the specific day that it is today. I'm waiting for someone to say something.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. It didn't have to be that, but thank you. Yes, it is my birthday, everybody, and I think that this is a great day to actually get everybody back and do a really fun recording. So I think the best thing to do is our hot button topic, which is I haven't spoken to these wonderful people for the last 2.5, 3 months, I think. Technically did not speak to everybody. I did speak to everybody, but not in regards to these specific YouTube matters. So I'm just going to go around the room and I'm going to just ask each and every one of you, what's been going on in your lives. So Stacy, you're the person that I talk to the least for some reason outside of YouTube. So what has been going on in your life? Anything new and exciting that you feel that YouTube is willing to hear about?
Actually, sadly, no. I really haven't done anything at all summer. I mean, we had our 4th of July party that we have every year. It's a pretty big party, but after 4th of July, we don't do anything. We don't go anywhere. It's really hot and miserable here. And Cammie, I know you're rolling your eyes at me right now, but it is really humid and gross, and I don't like leaving the house, and so we don't do anything in the summer, really.
Yeah, it's the funny thing about this year, particularly on the northern East Coast, it was really, really weird because we actually were somewhat having a decent summer until like the end of July, and that's when we started hitting all of these heat wave numbers, and now we're actually under a drought warning because we have barely gotten any rain for the last couple of weeks. But it's so weird to say that because you take a look at what happened last summer, particularly in my neck of the woods, we were getting rain almost every single week, to the point where there were some trees on my property that one of my neighbors said, you might want to find a way to get rid of those trees because those things are pretty much dead. Last year, not only did they go completely green, they bore fruit. We discovered that after living in this house for almost 4 years, we are the proud parents of an apple tree and 2 pear trees.
Nice.
That's awesome.
We didn't know that. But and on top of that, last year, by the 4th of July, New York had already had 3 heat waves. We didn't get our first heat wave until the end of July this year. So it's just been
Lucky.
Bizarre. But Stacy, I'm with you. When it's hazy, hot, and humid, you don't want to go anywhere. You want to waste your electricity on your AC. Whether you have wall units or whether you have central AC, you just want to burn that electricity through the roof if you have to. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of 100-degree days. It's not been fun.
No, it hasn't been. So besides all that, Gina, what else has been going on in your world?
Work, a busy season at the aquarium. Lots of kiddos. This week was the first slow week. Oh, it was so nice. And I went to California at the beginning of the month, and it was 75 there, and breezy and not humid. Oh God, it was great. I just kept standing outside like, and my friend kept laughing at me. He's like, "It's hot." I'm like, "No, please come to St. Louis where it's been 100 for 5 weeks straight." Like,
yeah, it's also really funny because last year on this exact date, which of course was another day where I celebrated my 40th birthday, the weather in New York was 76 degrees, not humid, and not just that, and overcast all day. So we were actually in the city that day, and it was amazing. This year, however, it was 88 degrees, hazy, hot, and humid, but all of my birthday festivities with my buddies actually was yesterday, and Cammie, you would appreciate this. Andy was over, and he brought his Switch, and we played Shredder's Revenge.
Oh, that's so rad.
That was without a doubt one of the best video games that I have played in such a long time. As you being the Ninja Turtles fanatic that I know you are, it is, if you are a fan of the classic Ninja Turtles, it is exactly everything that you would hope for, especially considering the fact that they got the original voice cast back from the 80s to voice the Ninja Turtles. But the highlight of the day was the fact that it wasn't just me and Andy playing. Andy's wife was with us, but she wasn't interested. But Jen played. Jen actually played the game with us. We had so much fun.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we beat
that's
it.
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and we beat the game. Yeah, long and short of it, I told Andy when we were all parting ways that I said, we got to get together and I got to play that game again. He goes, absolutely.
I think we need to normalize adults getting together and playing video games. I mean, I know it happens in some reaches of the country, but I just think it's so much funner because we appreciate just that like downtime and, you know, being able to just kind of look back at yesteryear. I like video games in a different way now.
I mean, look, I'm 41 years old today, and I'm wearing a Goofy Movie shirt. So it's a whole different world in regards to being an adult these days.
The 90s.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a whole new breed of adult. That's really what we are right now. I mean, I also love the fact that I actually hit a very interesting pop culture milestone in my house this past week. Welcome. This is Funko Pop number 400.
Dang, nice.
And on my doorstep today, number 401.
Oh, nice. That's the McFarlane one, yeah?
Damn right it is. It's gorgeous. Yeah. So, Cammie, what about you?
Oh, well, I wish I could say it was all fun and games, but I am in the process of packing up this room that you see behind me. We are 2 weeks out from getting new flooring. So if I ever hated the fact that I am a collector, it is now. This is a lot funner to take out of boxes than it is to put back in boxes, and then to find where to put it for a weekend is just a nightmare. In the meantime, when we were offline, I told you guys I've been the proud parent of 4 kittens, so I've been mommying those and trying to rehome them. One of my feral cats had those a couple months ago, and then I was involved in a head-on collision about 2 weeks ago. It sounds worse than it is. Old gentleman, a little bit, I think, over-medicated, going the wrong way down a one-road street, or down our street anyway. And I'm like, no, this isn't happening, right? You know, like, this happens to other people. This isn't happening right now. And I was doing a good Samaritan thing. I was helping, someone move some furniture, and lo and behold, apparently this gentleman had hit a couple of other people prior to hitting us, not head on, obviously. We stopped him dead in his tracks. So that was fun. So I'm in the process of trying to get my vehicle repaired. And yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces right now. As Gina said, work is keeping me extra busy. And I just found out Thursday I'm getting a promotion. So that's fun.
Congrats.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited. But it's going to be a lot of work ahead. I know that. I know I have a lot of things to learn. And I mean, it's exciting. I love a challenge, but not when I'm trying to deal with packing up 1992, which it's a lot.
I love that. Can I quote you on that one day? Packing up 1992. I kind of love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my summer was definitely interesting. It had highs and lows, and some of these things that happened were things you'd never wanted to actually happen when they did, because, my major goal in the summer was just trying to get used to being a father and dealing with my little one, who is now almost 4 months old. It is kind of crazy to believe that she's been in my life for that long. Every single day has gotten a little bit easier, but every single day, it's never without a challenge. That's one of the few things that I'm definitely figuring out. I am counting all of my blessings in regards to the things that are going in the right direction. But of course, I am not necessarily shaking in my shoes for things that are yet to come, but I know that they're coming because of the fact that we are now anticipating, or possibly it might already be here, the fact that my daughter is now going through the 4-month sleep regression period, as well as we think she might have started to teeth.
Good times.
So, yeah, so it's not that she's overly cranky. I mean, this thing that we're still very grateful for is the fact that she sleeps through the night, thank God. And her sleep regression, if anything, has been happening during her daytime naps. And it's just been very challenging for the last couple of weeks for me personally, because she does want attention. She wants to play with mommy and daddy. And the problem is, daddy, even though he's working at home, is still working, and he really cannot spend his time taking care of his little girl, even though it means the world to me. And my wife, is getting ready to go back to work. She's starting up the new school year, literally in a couple of days. But I'm on family leave now for the next 3 weeks. So yes, it's going to basically be me handling her as much as I possibly can most of the time. But it's so funny that you mentioned what you said, Cami, because we have a little issue with our car too. Last week, my wife was going to her school to meet with one of her coworkers, and more importantly, she brought my daughter with her to introduce her to some of the staff. So she's very close to where she needs to be. And all of a sudden, a passenger decides to step out of a cab and hit the driver's side of my wife's car. And the front door is basically jammed. Like, she cannot open the driver's side. Thank God she's okay. Thank God my daughter is okay. But the taxi driver was very upset about the passenger, because he literally told his passenger 3 times, do not get out of my car. There is a car coming. So luckily, everything went very easy with my wife. The cab driver was very kind to her, knew that it wasn't her fault. Even the wife of the passenger, because technically it was his fault, came down to even help assess the situation too. Long and the short of it is, we're not paying a penny for the cost to fix our car. That's the most important thing. The only thing that we have to find out about is when my wife is going to get her car back, because we kind of need to have a car for her to get to and from work. But at the same time, we have to seriously consider thinking about renting a car, because I am not going to be able to spend the next 3 weeks taking care of my daughter just sitting in the house. I'm going to go crazy. She's going to go crazy. You know what I mean? So we have to figure something out right now. It was such an inconvenient thing to happen. And this doesn't even compare to the fact that we ended up getting COVID this summer too. That was probably the worst experience of my life, not because of the symptoms. It was just so hard on my daughter, because when you have to spend 10 days with masks on all times, and your baby girl has no idea who you are because you look different. And not just that, you got to quarantine her in the house because you're in certain rooms with your mask off and you don't want her to get exposed. Long and the short of it, it was the worst 2 weeks of my life. Absolutely worst, because we couldn't even take her out for a walk because it was so hot outside. You can't do it. So other than that, I made the best of a bad situation. Still managed to find some ways to entertain myself. Did watch some of the newer movies that came out in theaters on HBO Max and Disney Plus and all of that. And I'll get into those later. But yeah, that's been my summer. Just looking forward to the best 3 weeks that I possibly can have now that I won't have to worry about work for 3 weeks,
I also
Gotta
had
make the
car
most of it.
issues this summer.
Wow. Really?
I went to Smoothie King before going to the zoo and hit their curb leaving the drive-through, and then leaving from the zoo, my tire busted
Ugh.
on like the worst highway possible. Like even if I knew how to change a tire, I would not have changed my tire on that highway. So I had to like call people, and it started raining, and then I had to go get new tires, and then my spark plugs stopped working, and they only changed one, and then a week later the other 3 went out, and it was a nightmare.
Wow. Stacy, you didn't have any car trouble, did you?
No, not
Good.
good.
Okay, thank God at least one of us didn't.
No.
But-
Last summer when my daughter totaled the car, she ran into the back of a dump truck. So been there, done that.
Right.
Bro. I'm still driving a car. I mean, my car is going to be 10 years old, which is crazy, but I am getting a new car in December. And quite frankly, I'm happy about that because my car is a 2-door Civic Coupe, and it is not good for more than 2 passengers, and it is definitely not good for car seats. So I have to wait until December because that's when my mom's lease is up, and they're basically buying out the lease and handing the car down to me. That's basically what my parents do with their leased cars. They buy out the leases and they give them to the kids. That's what they do. So that's what I'm waiting for. But yeah, it's just
Hey, since
this.
we're talking about cars, I'd like to bring in my Exhibit A. I did something cool. I built a Megazord.
I love it.
You know, I wanted one of those a long time ago.
I wanted to bring in happy vehicle news, So there you go. There's some
Well,
fun vehicle news. But it's not
yeah.
as cool as getting a lease from your parents. So
No, what can I say? What can I say? I'm one of those people that says, I know that there are people in this world that can be so at their wits' end with their parents to the point where everybody just cuts each other off. I'm telling people, even if you disagree with your parents regards to whether it's something as simple or as idiotic as politics, don't cut your parents out of your life because they're going to come through for you, especially if they know that you are doing the absolute best that you can in life. I mean, there are certain times where unfortunately you have to hit those kinds of circumstances, but, there are, people with first world problems. I'm like, don't be a moron. Don't do it. But
I think that old adage goes, you don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. I don't think
Yeah.
people realize how their parents are until they just don't have that availability to reach out and say something, So
I know.
it's a hard lesson to learn, but I want to wring my mother's neck most days, but I love her to death and I wouldn't do anything, differently. I just, I appreciate all the advice she still gives me and just being there when I need her, and she supports me being a big child, so that works too.
Yeah,
My mom doesn't understand it, but she's, doesn't really complain anymore. She's just like, you kids and your childhood things. I'm just like, it's a different time.
No, the same thing. My parents never understood why I collected things. Like, well, I actually explained it to my mother very well in regards to why physical media is so much, ironically, cheaper than streaming. Because I'm like, let me ask you something, Mom. You watch Stranger Things, right? Believe it or not, my mom does watch Stranger Things. She goes, yes, I do. I said, so what would you rather do? Pay $13 a month to rent every season of Stranger Things, or just slap $20 down for each Blu-ray and never have to pay for it again, and you can watch it whenever you want on your DVD player? She's like, okay, I see where you're going with that. And the funny thing is right now, especially with what's going on with Netflix and what's going on with Discovery Plus, Warner Brothers, whatever, it's like all of these companies are now jacking up what Disney is going to do with Disney Plus is absolutely ludicrous. But it's just like people are saying, why did I cut my cable again? I can't.
Well, I don't know why everyone's surprised with Disney Plus, though. Look what they're doing with Disneyland right now.
Hold on. There were too many cooks in the kitchen here. Cammy, you first, and then Stacy.
I don't know why everyone's so surprised about Disney Plus that, everybody wants to raise Cain about it, but look what they're doing at Disneyland right now. I've never seen a full pass, season pass, year pass, not premium, like top of the line, you're paying almost $1,100 for it now, and there's blockout days. That's unheard of. And you buy top of the line season pass, you don't get lockout days. That's always been the key. And people are still gobbling it up like, well, at least I get to go and not have to wear a mask. I'm like, are you people stupid? You are falling privy to this game that Disney is playing. You're basically making up for the fact that the park was closed for 2 years. And it's bullshit because they are passing that on to their consumers. And they have to remember, we were there when nobody else was. We were still buying the merchandise. We were still going to the Disney store. We were still shopping online, and yet they don't care. So it's going to be a hard thing to crawl out of. And I mean, this isn't just amusement parks. I mean, you're seeing it everywhere. The price of everything is not going down. And it's really catching up to people. And it's quite frankly, very exhausting. I'm just so exhausted just trying to stay afloat right now.
Gas is going down,
thank
though.
God I have
Gas is going down, though.
Yeah, but I mean, why are we getting excited about, $379, $349? That's still really high, and it's really hard and very challenging for people. I don't care if minimum wage has been going up. What people have always failed to understand is, okay, great, minimum wage goes up and then everything else goes up. The cost of living is still out of control. The housing market is getting ready to crash in a really ugly way. I hate to be the adult sitting in a room full of toys, but it's just, at what point are we going to be able to catch our breath? I'm very grateful that, like I mentioned, I'm moving up in the world, for work world, and I'm able to still afford some of the things that help me escape reality. But even that's harder and harder to do now. It's just, everything is just so costly. It's just, I don't know, it's very depressing.
Well, before we get to Stacy, whether you love or hate this specific YouTuber, Grace Randolph actually said it best, based around Disney Plus only, but it really applies to a lot of the things that you were talking about, Cammie. The only way that things are going to stop going in the direction they're going until the public gets up on their soapbox and screams, no more, we've had enough. And that's the problem. We can't. Like, at what point is Netflix going to stop raising their prices? Like, when is someone just going to say, stop it, I'm not going to pay this shit anymore? That's the long and the short of it.
I do think we are getting there, though. I think that people are having to start making those hard-hitting decisions of, do I want to feed my family this week, or do I want to continue with my streaming service? The streaming services helped us through the pandemic because we couldn't go anywhere. It was the entertainment, it was the escape that we needed at the time. And luckily, a lot of those streaming companies made those avenues affordable for families, and they made things a lot easier. But then they realized during the pandemic how many people were sharing passwords and things like that. And don't blame people. We were all just trying to make ends meet, but now we're paying for that because so many people were sharing this information and not paying for those streaming services. So all streaming services have gone through the roof. I had to make the executive decision last week to cut one of my streaming services because a lot of my shows were getting canceled. And I'm like, well, why am I even here? There's just so much uproar in the DC community right now that a lot of the shows that were on HBO Max just aren't going to be there anymore. So why am I paying for a service that is literally why I got that service,
Well,
so I foresee if the companies keep doing that, people are going to finally say enough's enough. And we have to, because if we as the consumers don't start screaming back, this is never going to end.
I know. Stacy, so what were you going to say?
So I cut my cable a few months ago. I was paying $125 a month for my dish, and I've been a Dish customer for 20 years, and I had one of the lowest packages you can get. And the only channels I ever watched were, and it's embarrassing to say, are TLC and Lifetime, because there are reality TV shows on those two channels that I watch. That's all I watched of TV. So I was paying $125 a month to watch my trashy reality TV shows. So I found a streaming service called Filio. I think it's Filio.
I have that.
Yeah, that.
Yep.
And it has TLC and Lifetime and
Hallmark.
all of the trash shows that I watch are on there, and I pay $25 a month. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
saving up.
I got that specifically for Hallmark because none of the
There
other
you go.
streaming services had Hallmark. And I'm like, I
It
need my
has
Hallmark
great
Christmas.
channels. It has all the things that I care to watch. All the
And there's
old
DVR.
80s, yeah, all the old
Yeah.
80s TV shows, the 90s TV shows, because I don't watch any of the garbage that's on TV today. So it has like all the past stuff and my trash.
Mhm.
So
Well, I'm still paying a decent chunk of money for cable, but that's also just due to the fact that my wife wants the news. She needs the news. She needs her local networks, which is completely fine. I mean, now apparently I need it because my daughter's favorite show is the Today Show, so she will not start her day without watching Savannah and Hoda every single morning. And believe me, I know that when Savannah and Hoda are not on the show, she gets very fussy. She does not like it when her specific hosts are there, but I'm not paying for HBO Max because I'm already paying for HBO. The only streaming services I'm really paying for right now are Netflix and Amazon Prime because, Prime is Prime. The streaming service is just the icing on the cake. But the truth of the matter is I'm not really watching much on Netflix, and quite frankly, once Stranger Things is over, I'm most likely just going to give it up because there's really nothing else in regards to Netflix that I'm really watching. HBO, there's a couple of shows that I am watching on there. There are a few old movies on there that I watch from time to time. I know that that's still, even when they're going to have that whole merger with Discovery Plus, I'm pretty sure that they're going to keep all of the traditional classic television. They'll keep the old cartoons for the kids. They'll keep the movies. They'll keep everything that they know is good. They're just not going to be putting out any new original specific for streaming content. That's what they're not going to do. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can turn on HBO Max and give my daughter old episodes of Sesame Street in a couple of months, that's all that I care about. That's completely fine by me. And we're going to keep cable because, yes, my wife does use it. My wife does watch a lot of shows, and I DVR a lot of shows and movies whenever I'm able to watch it. But I see where everybody's coming from. It's personally, I truthfully think at some point in time, streaming is going to end up not succeeding. I really don't think it's going to succeed because people are also suddenly going to realize that in order for you, if you don't want to have cable, if you want to basically have access to everything that you want, you're going to have to basically pay the exact same price for a whole bunch of different outlets rather than just paying the exact same price for one source. That's basically what you're doing now when you're paying for streaming right now as opposed to paying for cable. You know what I mean?
No, I pay for Netflix and Filio. And Netflix is what? $15? I don't know, 15
It'll
and
be-
25.
Yeah, I only
It'll
pay for the
be-
$8 Netflix. Like mom and I
Yeah.
can't watch it at the same time, but that's fine.
And it's, $40 at the most. And I was paying $125 for cable.
I'm paying $250 for cable.
That's insane.
You can get
You can get all your local channels. Look
Yeah.
at the Filio. It has all the TV shows.
You can also get an antenna. That's what we did when we first dropped cable that had all the local channels on it.
Mhm.
And then it even had some like non-local channels too. And then my mom missed USA. So we looked into other things, but like for the local stuff, we just use the antenna.
Mm.
And it's like $20 on Amazon and you get all the local shows and they're actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it's way cheaper.
I mean, you don't get the DVR with it, but
Well, that's a problem.
Old school. I mean,
But with,
think
like,
back to the other
Philo-
day, you couldn't DVR anything. Or
Yeah.
maybe this will encourage everybody to get a VCR again and just stick in a good old fashioned videotape and hit record.
Well, I
Yeah.
still have my DVD player. I mean, the one thing that
Same.
still is, the one thing that I'm really upset about in regards to getting a new car is the fact that my new car is not going to have a CD player. That's the one thing that really upsets me.
That is so random. I was just inquiring the other day. Hopefully, I really hope nothing is like horribly wrong on my truck. But if I get it back, I want to find out if somebody can install a CD player because I am so sad that I cannot play my CDs. That's all I want is a CD
Yeah,
player.
I still
will
buy
find somebody who
CDs.
can
I
install
do
one.
too. I just got the new Panic at the Disco CD, cassette tape, and vinyl.
Nice.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't collect much vinyls, but I have the Panic vinyl, and then I have 2 21 Pilots vinyls. And
I mean,
also
look,
21 Pilots CD,
I've
cassette tape.
I've been a customer of Verizon for almost 2 decades. You know, that's where my phone service is, and that's my cable service. I have to get in contact with them in the next couple of weeks because my contract is expiring. So I need to figure out what to do after that. I just know that if I throw out any of these other ideas that you guys are suggesting, my wife is going to say, no, don't do it. Just get cable.
You have to be able to try things. I mean, you can't just say no right off the bat. I mean,
Yeah.
I've kind of been a negative Nancy in the past when my husband has suggested, you know, cutting something off. But I think we get so consumed with being a consumer. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. We feel like we can't live without these things, and we have become a product of the environment that we've learned to hate. And we have to be able to cut the ties, because that's going to help us as a society say, hey, enough is enough, and push back. So if enough of us say, I don't want the $200 a month package, then I'm not going to pay for it, and cut it off. I mean, you know, like Stacey said, I've been a dish person for 20 years. However, I got to the point where I'm like, this is ridiculous. At some point, you start scrolling down your channels and you see a whole set of what you just saw at the top, and it's like, okay, so I'm getting all of the same programs just in high definition. Like, am I stupid? No, I'm not going to be paying for this exuberant package just to see this repetition. I don't give 2 shits about the news anymore. It's all lies and made up crap anyways, so I don't need that. Local channels, I mean, they're kind of hit and miss anyways. And really, what am I paying for? So I think that's kind of why streaming services became so lucrative, because you were able to just kind of pick all the things out, you know, cherry pick what you like from other sources. Like, oh, I like Lifetime, I like Hallmark. What offers me all the things that I like, but I don't have to pay for all this other junk, you know? Yeah. And so it's just a matter of talking sense with your spouse and saying, hey, this is what we're paying. This is what we could be doing with the money. And let's just cut back for a little while and see how it goes. If you hate it, all you got to do is pick up a phone, call them back and say, hey, I like what I had. Can I have it back? And they'll go back and, you know, plug everything back in.
Well, I think one of the most
deal, because you're a new customer. They always treat new customers better than old.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we did for years. Like, they would raise the prices. So my mom would call and bitch about it and be like, why do new customers get this? And I've been a customer for 15 years. And then they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll give you this. And then we'd, you know, get the lower price for another year. But it took a while.
I was really upset. I was really upset because one of the channels that we had in our package was taken away, and we didn't even know it was getting taken away. And it was one of my wife's and my favorite channels. It was the Cooking Network. So I actually yelled. And I was yelling at them about it. And they said, well, if you're going to do this and you're going to have to get this package, I just literally said to them, because I didn't even call a customer service rep. I was talking to someone on the internet. And I said to the guy, I literally said to him, no, fuck you. Like, I literally said to him, go fuck yourself.
Well, you can get that channel for $25 a month, Steve.
Yep, on Philo.
With HDTV and
here's a great idea. Here's a great idea. Why don't you call my wife and you talk to her? I can't get this point across her. If you can get her to let it sink in, then God bless you, Stacy. You have
just
my
send her this
permission.
video. Be like, hey, you need to watch this.
Trust me, my sister has had this argument with my wife so many times, and she cannot get through to her.
Yeah, it took a while to get through to my mom.
I mean, look, I don't care. I'm not shelling money out of my own pocket. Like, it's not a purchase that, look, let me just put it this way. For every additional dollar that I have to spend for the both of us, she doesn't yell at me for collecting comic books. So I don't care.
Oh, my comic book collection, Steven. What have you done to me? What have you done?
Hey, you didn't have to do a damn thing. You just went for it. Stop listening to me.
I've got a new collection.
I now have to buy comic book boxes to put all my comic books in boxes so they don't get damaged while I'm getting new floors. And I'm like, what the hell? And then I just found out that they make these really cool, like, design deco boxes. And I'm like, what the shit? And
can I just ask you, but can I ask you just one simple question, Cammie?
Nothing is simple from you, Stephen.
When you bag and board your comics, do you not feel like everything is just right with the world?
I'll have to agree with that. Yes, that is a
It,
solid
it
statement.
literally is. When I am literally bagging and boarding new comics, I'm like in Zen mode. I am like in inner peace. I feel like nothing can bother me anymore. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
You know,
I
you
keep
know when
buying
the light
comic
really
book
shines
boards.
from heaven
When-
is when I complete a series.
Yes.
I'm just like, oh.
Gina, what were you saying?
I keep buying comic book boards for my overgrowing fabric collection that I don't use. Because they're real nice to like fold up, and then you can like they fit in my filing cabinet much nicer.
No, I'm telling you.
You're a genius.
Yeah, I saw it on Pinterest or TikTok or something, and I was just like, this is brilliant, because instead of they getting like all bunched up, you just fold them up on those comic book boards, and now it's their files in
Yeah.
my filing
That's
cabinet. I can fit so much more in them.
No, but
Wow.
but it's true, Cammie. It's like I go to the store, I get the stack of books, I carefully package them up and bring them home in my bag, and then I just go downstairs, because now I can go back downstairs into the basement now because it's all fully furnished. I can even go into my walk-in closet now because it's got carpet in it. I can just sit down in there, and I just take out a bunch of comic book books, a comic book bag, comic book boards, and a whole bunch of Scotch tape, and I just start putting things in certain places. I'm just like, I feel wonderful. It's the greatest feeling in the world.
Now, though, I'm having a dilemma. So this room, as you see it now, will not be this way next time we sit down, friends, because this is actually going to be my son's room. And so we have agreed, I say that lightly because I think I just kind of coerced him and made it sound really cool, but I have told him that I'm going to commandeer his room, which is across the hall, because it's a little bit smaller, and I feel bad for the guy. He doesn't have a lot of play space, and this room is longer, so I'm like, okay, you can have this space. However, I get to have a hand in decorating. He's like, all right, what's your take on this? I said, well, I'll give you your Lego space, right? But you have to let me incorporate my fandoms. And he's like, what's a fandom? And I'm like, well, you see, this room throws up on itself all the time, and I just have too muchness. So what I'm imploring is that you take some of this from me, but let me decorate it in a way that it's kind of going to become yours. And he's like, does that mean I get to play with it? I'm like, no, that doesn't mean that. You get to look at it.
Yeah,
He's like, well, if I can play with some of it, I'll agree to this. I said, fine, I'll put some stuff in your reach. But so it kind of circles back to comic books, because in front of me, which is now my kind of horror pop corner, that's going to be like the start of the superhero wraparound. So I'm going to get this really cool like wall wraparound. And I told him, but I get to hang up some of my comic books. He's like, don't you read your comic books? I'm like, yeah, but I have some that are bagged and boarded that I'm never going to touch again. He's like, well, then why'd you buy them? I'm like, because they're collector's items. Look, son, do not question. Just let me hang them on the wall.
Yeah, like I have a box of comic. There's a comic box that I have that's not even with all of my regular comics. It's actually in my closet in the bedroom. It's like behind my flannel shirts, and in there are like all of these variant covers and special limited edition books. And I'm like, no, I'm never gonna read these. But it's like the only way that I will actually take this book out of here is if I find out that the person who wrote it or the person who drew it is at my local shop and is going to sign it, I will get it signed. That's the only reason why I'm going to take them out of my box. But that's like my very special comic book box over there.
And that's like a whole other can of worms variants. I think we've talked about having this conversation with Shay somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
But someone like me who is a completist, and then I find like this whole other set with variant covers. I'm like, do I need it? No. Do I want it?
Oh.
Yes. So do I get it? Of course. Do I have the room? Absolutely not.
Yep.
But by God, I have got two really cool sets with two different very cool covers. I swore to myself up and down I wasn't going to do it again. And then Jurassic, Justice League Jurassic World came out.
Oh God, I love that book, Jurassic League.
It's so bad, it's good. But
I
now
love
I
it.
have two sets I have the OG original one because it's super nostalgic and very 80s with all the bright colors and, you know, the neons, and it just looks like crazy, just garbage. And then you have the alternate covers, which are very dinosaur-esque, you know, they look like they really belong in a paleontologist office or something.
It's one
So
of
I'm
the, yeah.
like, do I need them both? But I got them both.
It's one of the main reasons why I'm glad that I put comic books in boxes and why I still keep my Funko Pops in their boxes, because it's great to know that you can stack them.
Yes, this is true.
That's the best way to save space. It's just like I joked before we moved, my wife and I, into our house. I joked about it. It was never going to happen. But I said to her that one day, you know, there will be a room where there is just going to be a big void, like nothing is going to be there. And then I am going to take my Funko Pops and I will build a great wall of Funko Pops within that space. It will be absolutely beautiful. And but it never happened. But yeah, they just keep stacking. That's all I do. I stack them. It's so easy. And especially when you're an inbox collector, and when you are an inbox collector, it is so much easier to put them in boxes if you have to move.
Yeah, I'm going to be very careful as to what I choose to retake out of boxes, but then that also brings me to that, you know, adult responsible dilemma. If I'm just going to keep everything in boxes, then why do I have so much crap, you know? Because you really can't enjoy it the same if everything's in boxes. You can't touch it or play with it or anything. Not that I like literally play with my toys like a 5-year-old, but I mean, it's nice to be able to pick something up and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah.
And I just think that, you know, although yes, they do look pretty, you can't really enjoy them the same in boxes. So
Well, that's the funny thing.
That point.
That's the funny thing. These really can't come out of their boxes.
Right.
They're literally in plastic cases.
Yeah, that's totally different. Yeah, no, I totally get that. But I just mean like the little 4-inch ones, you know, those are funner to display and to photograph and stuff. But the 6-inch ones, the 8-inch or the 9-inch ones, you know, those are really cool out of the boxes. And I really don't think you can get the full awe of something like that unless you take it out. But it's just like, how many like one character Funkos do I need? And that's kind of where I'm at now. When it first started happening, I'm like, oh, I love this pose and that pose. And so I started, you know, gobbling them up. But now it's just, I've got to make decisions, you know, it's just a lot. There's a lot going on. And, you know, in apps of taking over the whole house, which I did petition today with my husband, I said, I would just like to volunteer all of the space in the house for my Funko Pop collection.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. If it makes
No,
you
I
happy.
agree. I agree, but then when you find out that there's going to be a 3-pack of Blink-182 from Enemy of the State, and yes,
And
when you
they're
actually,
naked.
and when you do take them out of the box, you do see all of their backsides. I'm like, yeah, I think I need to have that. So that's coming in. So that's coming in December.
I saw that. I was like, no, I don't need Blink. And then I'm like, oh, but they're naked. That's cute.
It's a specific version of them, and the most important thing was it actually has Tom. You know, the fact that they have the core lineup.
That's what I liked. I like the fact that they gave it a 3-pack that it deserved, because they're not together. But I was so bummed that they didn't do the same for Boys to Men, and that's why I refused to buy Boys to Men, even though they're my favorite harmony group of all time. That was actually my first concert, by the way. But
Nice.
they totally ousted, you know, and I'm like, how do you do that? That's not fair. Even though, yes, they haven't been together for years, but it wasn't his fault that he left the band. He, you know, he had a throat issue. Like, let it go already.
And it is,
anyway.
And to certain degrees, yes, there are certain ones that come out and I get really excited about them when I see them, but do I want to buy them? No. Like when they announced they were going to be making a Sir Mix-a-Lot and that he was going to be standing on a bum, I'm like, no, I'm not getting it. It's fun, it's great, but I'm not getting it. Or one of my favorite bands is U2. Another one of my favorite bands is Green Day. Those bands are now pops. And quite frankly, I don't like them. I don't like the way they look. So I'm not going to get them. Now, if they ever may want to make a pop album of Dookie, that would be a whole other animal. I would buy that. But
yeah, but then there's a whole other beast like that. That's a whole other line right there. Pop albums, you know.
I have one. I have a pop album, and I actually pre-ordered another one just because of the fact that it was Cyndi Lauper. I have to have that.
I have
because
the I have the Ed Sheeran one. He sits with my Harry Potter Funkos because of the whole joke that he's Charlie.
Yeah. But anyway, you know something? When I was taking a look at the laundry list of stuff to talk about, Gina, you have been busy. You've been seeing a lot of interesting things. Lots of movies,
Yeah.
lots of TV shows. I am very glad that you saw Dune because that movie came out a while ago. That is, now you're talking about the newer version, not the one from '84, correct?
Yeah.
Great movie, isn't it?
I wanted to go see it in theaters because everyone kept saying go see it in theaters, and I just never got around to it. I was distracted half the time, so I need to rewatch it. But I enjoyed what I saw, and you can definitely tell the aspects that George Lucas grabbed for Star Wars from it.
Right. Exactly.
Which was kind of fun. Like, since I'm now a Star Warsy person, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. I actually officially am all caught up on all of the Disney Plus Star Wars stuff. So I will definitely say that I am not as big of a fan of the live action stuff that they've done as opposed to the animated stuff that they've done. Personally,
Bad Batch is so
I
good.
love the Bad Batch. I thought that was a great one, but I was really impressed with Star Wars Visions.
Yeah, that was very good too. I need to rewatch that, especially that
was,
first episode. Oh.
Yeah, that was really, really cool. It reminded me of the Animatrix, you know,
Yeah.
because it was really cool to see something like Star Wars done with anime on overtones. It was very well done. And I will definitely say, even though this show was like in so much controversy, I couldn't figure that out. I enjoyed ObiWan. I thought that was a really good show. I really loved it.
I like that it focused on Leia and not Luke.
Yeah, well, first of all, the little girl that they got to play 10-year-old Leia, I'm like, if someone actually said to an executive, so I built a time machine, and I went back in time and found Carrie Fisher when she was 10 years old, and I brought her back to modern day to be in this Obi-Wan Kenobi show. If someone would have actually said that to an executive, I would have definitely believed that person.
Right.
Because that little actress who they got to play a version of Carrie Fisher, like as a kid, she did it beautifully, absolutely beautifully. I was shocked. Yeah. So I also finally saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Had a fun time with it. I personally thought it was fun.
I did too. A lot of people hated it.
Yeah. Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore. I didn't hate it. Someone enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. I think I had more fun with it than I was anticipating.
Yeah, I was really surprised by it. And I did finish the Teen Titans animated series and Spider-Man, the animated series. Fun shows, though I don't think that they are the best things that I ever watched. Although I will never get the line, "Come robbining with us, it is most delightful." That is one of the greatest lines in the history of television. I will always remember that in my heart. Spider-Man, the animated series, I don't know, because I loved X-Men, the animated series, when I was a kid growing up. There was something about Spider-Man that just made it a little too kitschy for me, but it was still fun. I kind of loved the fact that they broke the fourth wall a couple of times, and they had a couple of meta moments. Like, I loved this one scene where the Kingpin was telling Spider-Man his evil plans, and he actually says to him, "My God, Kingpin, now you sound like a Saturday morning cartoon villain." And I'm just laughing because, like, Spider-Man is a Saturday morning cartoon. It was fun. I personally thought that it was fun. And I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. But of course, I like to watch movies for the very old movies for the first time, as well as some of my personal favorites for the first time. Today, literally today, I watched for the very first time The Last of the Mohicans.
Wow. Did you cry?
No.
I sob in that movie.
It's very good, though. I mean, personally, I would take that movie over Dances with Wolves any day because I hate Dances with Wolves with a passion.
The cliff scene, I lose
That
it.
was a shocker. That shocked me. But it's like, you see that movie and you see Daniel Day-Lewis and you like know some of the movies that he did later on in his career, like I will say that as a person who knows Daniel Day-Lewis as an actor, I would probably say my favorite performance of his is Lincoln. I think that he is brilliant as Abraham Lincoln. But when you see The Last of the Mohicans, you see his greatness. Like, you could see that he was going to be that great actor that everyone knows that he is. And this year is the 30th anniversary of that movie. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Yep. I watched a couple of specific movies that were celebrating their anniversaries. The only one, and I know someone in this room is going to really get pissed off at me, but I never saw Rain Man in its entirety. So I finally watched it in its entirety. It was great.
Such a good movie.
It's a great movie. I mean, I think Dustin Hoffman is unbelievable in that movie. It is still weird to me, though, that the director of that movie directed Men in Black and The Addams Family. That is still something that is a little bit weird to me.
And that's the versatility of a good director, though. That
Exactly.
Just, take it from all vantage point.
Yeah. Celebrating the 25th anniversary, along with finally watching Sonic 2 and really, really loving it, I watched for the first time in a long time, because this year this movie is 25 years old, I watched Liar Liar. It is still my favorite Jim Carrey film. I don't care what anybody says. I do not care for Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I don't like it at all. I think it is stupid. I always say, if you want to take a look at two of Jim Carrey's greatest comedies, it is Liar Liar and The Mask. Those are his two best, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Liar Liar. What do you say?
Yeah.
Grinch.
Yeah, Grinch.
Grinch is cute. Grinch is cute. But Liar Liar is just, that is chef's kiss in Jim Carrey's career. I love that movie to death. And I watched what I personally think is the greatest film that Steven Spielberg ever directed. No, it is not Jurassic Park. And even though it is the 40th anniversary of E.T., it's not E.T. But this year was the 20th anniversary of Catch Me If You Can. That is, I think it's Steven Spielberg's greatest movie. Very much underappreciated and overlooked.
I've never
I
seen
can
it.
agree with that.
Yeah, me either.
You have to see it. It's wonderful.
What? It's a fantastic, and it's based on a true story.
I would say it's one of Leonardo. You see, the funny thing about that movie is that was around the time when I didn't take Leonardo DiCaprio seriously as an actor. Because yes, I saw Romeo and Juliet and I saw Titanic. And I'm looking
Gilbert Grape.
Besides What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is a great movie, by the way.
Uh-huh.
But after What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he went on and do these movies, and I'm just looking at him, and he's just another teen heartthrob. But then the right directors get their claws on him, particularly Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Quentin Tarantino, and that's why Leonardo DiCaprio has an Oscar, even though the reason why he has that Oscar is because of Eduardo Inarritu. Because of the Revenant. But think of those movies that he did after Titanic. He did Catch Me If You Can, Gangs of New York, The Departed, Django Unchained, all of these incredibly good movies. The Wolf of Wall Street, say what you will about that movie. It's not Scorsese's best, but it's Leonardo DiCaprio's one of his best performances, I think.
That is the most crass movie I've ever seen in my whole entire life. I couldn't wait for it to be over. It was just wretched.
And you and I both agree that you and I both agree that Boiler Room is better.
Oh, 110,000%. I could watch, as a matter of fact, I used to watch Boiler Room like all the time, over and over and over again. That is just a genius script. It's fun. It's also a genius cast. And it's so much better in dialogue. I don't know what it was about that movie. It kept getting worse. I'm like, okay, it can't get worse than this, right? And then it does. And it's just, it was just vomit in my mouth. It was horrible.
It dragged. That's the big problem with that movie.
Well,
it dragged.
That too. Yeah. I'm like, okay, is this done yet? And I get it. Okay, it was about somebody's life, but we don't always get the whole story. So why the hell did we get that guy's whole story?
Yeah, but again, it was 2002. It was 2002. Leonardo DiCaprio stars in Gangs of New York and Catch Me If You Can, and then all of a sudden, everybody is looking at him saying, wow, maybe he's not just a teen heartthrob. Maybe he really is a serious actor, because everybody forgot about What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Because unfortunately, Titanic, The Beach, remember that movie? Those movies were what he was getting known for. I mean, Cammie's probably going to laugh, but did anyone remember the fact that he really got his start on Growing Pains? Did anybody remember him in that show?
I've always kind of had a thing for DiCaprio, except for in real life. I just think he's a piece of work, you know.
Yeah.
He's something else. But that aside, he is a brilliant actor, and I think he's very underrated because a lot of people do kind of capture those youthful looks, and they immediately assume that he's younger than he really is. You know, for God's sakes, the man's almost 50. Like, give him what he is, give him the form, and his entire career has been pretty spectacular. I mean, I don't really think there's been anything that he's done that I just think is utter garbage. I mean, other than The Departed, but that was my own mistake for watching that twice, by mistake twice, because I said, oh, I haven't seen this yet. And then I'm like, oh yeah. So I bought the movie and I hated it. Anyway, that's just, that's my own complaint. But no, I just didn't like where it ended. I mean, brilliant cast, love the director, but I'm like, really, this is what we get? But I think that he's very underrated because people like to focus on the wrong things when it comes to certain actors. And he is one of those few Hollywood, like, handful that doesn't look his age, you know, and so therefore he's just kind of dismissed. I don't think it was until recent that people started taking him a little bit more serious, but even when they take him serious, they don't. So he's always got an uphill climb.
I mean, I know that this was a movie that not everybody liked, but I thought he was really funny in Don't Look Up. I was really impressed with his performance in that movie.
He is very funny. He's very witty. He's very charming.
Yeah.
I think that also gets lost on the wayside.
I basically say to people, if you want to see his best performance, just watch Django Unchained. He is a riot in that movie. He really is.
I love that movie. That's one of those best wit movies I've seen in a really long time.
You know, Cammie, I remember once a long time ago when I was really starting to get into my YouTube stuff, I had a live show with a bunch of other people who were talking about what we all thought the best Tarantino movie was. And I wouldn't be surprised if we all went into that all thinking that it was going to be Pulp Fiction, and it ended up being Django Unchained. It's kind of interesting because that movie really is like a fine wine. Every single time you watch it again, it just gets better with age because you find something new in it and you get excited and that movie just makes you laugh. That's what I think is so great about that movie, because it's about a serious topic. I mean, it's about slavery, for crying out loud. But oh my God, that movie is so damn funny, especially when Don Johnson is on the screen. When Don Johnson, as Big Daddy, is on the screen, it's the funniest part of the whole movie.
Yeah, that's probably a very underrated film too. I mean, I know it got a lot of hype when it came out, but in terms of comedic, timing and the charismatic ensemble between the cast, and it's a really good film, and despite its heavy content, it really works so well, and I think that it should have got a lot more airtime than it did.
All right, so Gina, you really got an opportunity to go see a lot of different movies, and I know that Cammie will definitely share in some of your conversations, so I'm just going to give you all the stuff rapid fire, and I really want to know more of your thoughts, particularly about one specific film. But first, both you and Cammie went to go see the new Jurassic Park film, Jurassic World Dominion. I have to say that it was weird to finally take a look at the last Jurassic Park film and say, wow, it really came to this. Mm-hmm. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that we would have ever gotten to that point, but apparently we did. But what was it like? I mean, like, you literally had like the old cast uniting with the new cast.
So I saw it with a bunch of my coworkers, and we all work at an aquarium, right? And so the very beginning, all of the baby dinosaurs that are like, in the lab or whatever, literally our entire row just kept going, oh, like no one else in the theater was. Like you could tell we were all, animal people because we all work at an aquarium. And I really liked it. I don't think I would have liked it as much had the old cast not been in it. And like they played more of a role than I was anticipating. Like I thought it would be, a quick cameo, like, oh hey, love your work, and then they're done. But they played a really big part, and I don't think I would have liked it quite as much had they not been in it.
100% agree. I think that older cast really carried the movie. I actually saw it twice, and it was for no other reason than when my daughter got into town, she was like, I haven't seen it yet, so we're like, oh, we'll go again, no big deal. So it was good. I think that when I first saw it, I gave it a 5 out of 5, and then when I saw it again, I'm like, it's just a 4 out of 5, because there are a few flaws, there are a few things that are embellished a little bit, but I feel that if the OG cast wasn't in it, the whole dialogue just wouldn't have carried the same. The
Right.
comedic wit was there again. That I guess that old nostalgic feel from me came back, just kind of rooting, for the couple to come together finally after all this time. And then just to kind of see a real, what I felt was like a real dinosaur story, like
Yeah.
we were passionate about the dinosaurs again. We really wanted to see what humans had created and both destroyed in the same breath. How are we going to fix this, and it really just, to me, it played a big part into Earth as a whole, how we have done so many things to damage it, and thinking that we were the greater superpower and that we had all the right ideas right from the start. And we've seen, now an evolution of the Jurassic Park idea come to fruition. And just thinking of rather the last, over the last, I'd say 30, 35 years of all the things that we've done as people and as a society for, preparing for global climate changes and so forth. And we've done so many things wrong. So now how are we going to fix it, So I guess my heartstrings were tugged in a lot of different ways, because I'm just like, man, this really hits home in so many different ways. Of course, we're talking about dinosaurs, which is a completely different subject, but it just really made me think of Earth in that moment, and just all these species that we have endangered, thinking that we were doing the right thing at the right time, and we weren't. So, kind of like Gina was saying, that's how I felt, the awe from the very beginning, because this really was about bringing it all back to the beginning, fixing the damage, and realizing that we as humans don't always have the right answers. And some of the things that we think we're doing right and setting in motion inevitably is causing more damage in the end. And so it was kind of nice to see that there were still some humans, a handful of humans, that cared an awful lot to right the wrong. And I think that's what I took away from the movie. And I think that's why I kept it rated so high, because to me, that was the overall message.
Okay. Gina, you saw Bullet Train. Your thoughts?
So the guy that I went to go see it with liked it a whole lot more than I did. I expected it to be more actiony, I think. The best parts were in the trailer. And like, I usually love movies that are like set in like one space. So like, the train is the one space to it. There was a really great cameo that I wasn't expecting. Other than that, it's just okay. Not worth seeing it in a theater, I don't think. But I am definitely in the minority with that. Everyone else has been loving it.
Our Father?
Creepy. That dude. Oof. Very creepy. And since I worked for Ancestry for 6 years, like, I mean, I didn't do any of the DNA stuff, but it definitely was interesting seeing how they were able to use all that to find all these siblings.
Okay, I don't even know if this is a movie, so I really hope I don't get this right or wrong. Wedding Season?
Yeah, so I watched that the other day. It's a new movie on Netflix. It is my favorite trope. fake relationship into real relationship, and it's basically about these two Indian Americans who their families make profiles for them and set them up on a date, and they agree to like pretend to be dating to please their family, and they just are each other's wedding dates for the entire summer, and then end up, you know, falling in love because naturally. It was really cute.
That sounds really cute.
It was very cute. It's I think it just came out like last week too.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay. I don't even know if Cammie saw this, but I mean, this is a horror movie, I believe. So I'm really curious. Because Gina saw it. Black Phone?
So good.
Ethan
Not
Hawke's in that,
yet.
right?
Yeah, it's so good. My
is.
one of my friends like does not like Ethan Hawke, and he's like, man, Ethan Hawke just playing Ethan Hawke. It's great.
Well, I mean, like, I like Ethan Hawke. Do I have a lot of movies in my collection of his that he's in? No, but I will say that I do have one of his greatest performances, and that is Reality Bites. You know, I love him in that movie.
Black Phone was very good. It gave me a couple of jump scares that I wasn't anticipating. And it was just very creepy. And of course, since it came from Joe Hill, who's Stephen King's son, I expected high things, and it did not disappoint.
Okay, you really run the gamut here. You saw Ambulance too?
Yeah, I ended up renting it and had to watch it twice because I fell asleep the first time. I was like, well, or maybe no, that was Morpheus. Did I not put Morpheus on here? Wow.
No, you didn't.
I didn't put. I fell asleep.
Maybe it's good that you didn't.
I watched them in the same day, so I rented both of them. Fell asleep during Morpheus and had to watch it again because I'm like, well, I'm paying for this. I want to finish it. Not great, and it's not even Jared Leto, because I like Jared Leto. It's just not.
I do too.
A great film, but Ambulance was fun. It was kind of similar to the later Fast and the Furious movies.
Movies I still haven't seen, so
fun.
Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. Now we're getting into the interesting stuff. So I actually saw this one. I did on Disney Plus see Lightyear.
I didn't like it.
You know, I liked it more than I thought that I would, but I'm still going to say the same thing that I said about Toy Story 4. It's good, but if we never got it, I don't think I would have lost any sleep over it. It's another one of those movies that we really didn't need.
Yep.
But I will say, say what you will about Chris Evans as a person, but I will say he really knew how to channel his inner Tim Allen to be Buzz Lightyear in that movie. But I actually made a joke about this. I even once talked about this on Facebook, and I will not say I got any backlash, but I got a lot of people thinking that I was a little bit crazy. The true villain of that movie is Andy's mom, because I don't think a rational mother would have brought their 5-year-old to see that movie.
Yeah, it was. I
mean,
I didn't expect it to get so dark so fast.
Yeah, it's a dark. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. There was a point in time where kids' movies, particularly if the movie was directed by a man named Don Bluth, was pretty dark. But I don't know. I don't think I know for a solid fact that, and I was even telling my wife about this. Like, I mean, like, this movie's PG. I wouldn't bring my 5-year-old to see a PG movie. I still got into a big fight where someone said he wasn't 5 when Andy wasn't 5 when he saw that movie. I'm like, yeah, he was. Have you seen the original Toy Story? His birthday party was for his 6-year-old self. And if he saw Buzz Lightyear and knew who Buzz Lightyear was before he turned 6, that means his mom took him to see this movie when he was 5. I was a little bit more dirty and said I seriously thought that Lightyear was going to be Buzz Lightyear's wet dream, but that's beside the point. It would have been much funnier if that was the case. But I don't know. I as a person who is now a parent, I would not take a kid that's 5 years old to see a movie like Lightyear.
I'm glad I didn't see it in theaters.
Yeah, I would well, you see, I would have seen it in theaters because, unfortunately, my streak in regards to seeing Disney Pixar films and MCU films on the big screen was officially snapped due to the birth of my daughter. So I was seeing all the good, the bad, and the ugly on the big screen. So I would have seen it on the big screen. I will definitely say that Turning Red was the better Pixar film of 2022.
Yeah,
Lightyear was intended for kids, though. I think there was a lot of hype that take your kids to see this, but I think that the market was really us, you know,
Yeah.
the Toy Story
Yeah.
generation,
Yeah.
and giving us the film that we never got. But really, it should have started here. We should have got the Lightyear movie before we got the toy version, because then we would have known what the toys were created from. So I think this was kind of ass backwards and a little bit late. You know, I don't think we cared at this point, and I think that's what this generation is kind of saying. Like, we've seen the fun aspect of Toy Story, and we got that it was a TV show, but this wasn't it, and we didn't need it, and we sure as hell didn't need Toy Story 4. They can take that, can it up, and ship it back wherever the hell it came from, because that's the worst movie ever. I mean, like, Bo Peep can take her sheep, and I never want to find her because she is a hussy that split up the team, so screw her.
I'm
and
sorry.
I liked her in the first one. So
I'm applauding you because of how you took the poem and you gave it a spin. That was beautiful. I give you props, Cammy. Oh my God. The fact that you said that on a whim.
Many hours thinking about that. I don't know. Bo Peep she just sits wrong with me now.
Okay.
But I think Lightyear was unnecessary, and I think a lot of people, you know, and not so many words are saying that. It's just, it wasn't needed.
Okay,
so question. In the original Toy Stories, do we ever find out about the truth about Zurg?
No, I don't believe so.
I didn't think so. Okay. I wasn't sure if I was not remembering.
All I know is that a lot of people who were older, like from our generation, who saw Lightyear, were really upset because they basically now think that the story completely retconned the cartoon show. A lot of people liked Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. But anyway, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty here. Okay, so this movie was hyped, and then it hit theaters, and then it was gone. Gina, nope.
I think it might be my favorite of his three.
Really?
Yeah, it is very, you should have seen it in theaters just because the sound plays such a big part of it. And it just it was very well done and very creepy and spooky. And I really liked Us, but I think I like Nope more.
I've seen Get Out and Us, and I love Get Out. So
I didn't like Get Out, but I think it's because I think it's because I didn't see it in theaters. I saw it on TV, and I was watching it with a friend, and I looked at him at one point, and I was like, oh, this and this and this is gonna happen, right? Completely joking. And he just looked at me and he goes, how did you figure that out? I'm like, because it's obvious. I found it a little too predictable, but I think had I saw it in theaters and gotten the full scope of the sound, just seeing Us and Nope in theaters and getting the full surround sound scope of it, I probably would have liked it more.
All right. Thor: Love and Thunder.
It's so fun.
I hear it's terrible.
Oh, it's so fun. It is just go into it expecting to have a good time. The goats, perfect.
Okay, because perfect. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I hate Thor Ragnarok. I think it's the worst Marvel film of all time. I will personally tell people that I would rather watch Thor: The Dark World than Thor Ragnarok, and that basically triggers a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. That was another one that I went with a bunch of my coworkers, and again, we all loved the goats, which should say something about the movie if your favorite characters are goats that just scream the whole time.
That is one of the two movies that is actually coming to streaming services that I actually have in the next 2 weeks, so I'm really looking forward to actually finally seeing this one. But the movie that I'm looking forward to that you've already seen that I must ask you about, because it's hitting HBO Max literally this week, Elvis.
It's so good. I didn't think I was going to end up getting to see it just because every time I kept trying, plans just kept falling through. And then I finally saw it, and it is kind of long, and you can feel the length of it, but I don't think I don't know. It was good. It was very interesting.
I knew that when that movie hit, I knew this movie has been coming out for years, and I knew that Tom Hanks was in it. I knew that Baz Luhrmann was directing it, and Tom
Hanks is very creepy in it.
But the one thing that I was saying to so many people was I couldn't believe that it's taken us this long to get a biopic about Elvis Presley. It's a shock to me.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we have already gotten biopics of certain music personalities that, we could have easily waited for. But, we're now officially in a time frame where there are so many biopics about music artists now that are coming out. And I personally think it's great because I've seen Rocket Man, which I think is wonderful. Bohemian Rhapsody is fantastic. I keep telling people that if you haven't seen Love and Mercy and you're a fan of the Beach Boys, you really should see it, especially if you want to see John Cusack give you a performance that you will never see again. Beautifully done. But, the fact that Elvis is only like a legend now in name, like there are people that have never even heard his music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you guys remember, maybe Stacy and Cammie remember this? Remember when that remix of the song A Little Less Conversation came out and it was like in car commercials and stuff? Apparently, I remember hearing this on a radio station once. Someone actually said there is definitely a group of 12-year-old girls in a basement somewhere in middle America listening to this song right now, and they're saying, oh man, this guy Elvis is going to be big one day.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard that, when I saw that Warner Brothers was making it, that basically said to me, okay, great, it's going to show up on HBO Max, and I'm going to be able to finally see it, because I knew I wasn't going to see it in theaters, unfortunately.
It's definitely pay attention to it, because the way it's edited gets a little confusing sometimes, but it's very artsy in the way that it's edited, I think.
Well, that's really what it is. If you're a Baz Luhrmann fan, you know that it's artsy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because Romeo and Juliet, because I did see Romeo and Juliet. I said that earlier today. Not one of my favorite films, but there are many people that love it. I personally loved his take on The Great Gatsby. I really, really liked that movie a lot.
That was amazing.
I thought it was very well done. Another movie with Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
I still haven't seen that one.
And Moulin Rouge. Fantastic.
Yeah, and Moulin Rouge, yeah. Like, he knows how to really edit. That's what's really, and direct and all
it's
that.
It's very stunning.
Yep.
One thing you can say, even if you don't love Romeo and Juliet, it's one of the best soundtracks to ever come out.
100%.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So there's something that you put here on the list. Gina, is this Machine Gun Kelly thing a movie or an actual album?
It's a documentary. And so it's his documentary of him going from rap to rock in the middle of COVID. And kind of him surviving depression and attempted suicide. And it was very, very deep. I didn't expect it to be as deep as it was. I have found myself a fan of Machine Gun Kelly recently, just because I keep hearing songs. I'm like, who is this? And I'll Shazam it, and it's Machine Gun Kelly. So I finally started listening to his stuff. And so his alternative rock, punk rock stuff, I really enjoy. And so it's kind of his transition of, he kind of fell from the limelight and, wasn't doing very good. And then COVID hit and he just started messing with his guitar, and him and Travis Barker came up with, a bunch of songs. And now 3 years later, he has 2 new albums out that are fantastic.
Well, I know that Cammie ripped me a new one a couple of years back. Even though I didn't like the movie The Dirt, which is about Motley Crue, I did like Machine Gun Kelly as Tommy Lee. He was great.
That was such a good movie, and you're not a fan, so shut your face.
Okay, so let's move. Okay, also, I'm not sure if this is a movie or not. What is I'm Glad Your Mom Died?
It is a book. It is Jeanette McCurdy.
Okay.
Yeah, I have been in such a slump this year. I have read 8 books. Usually by now I'm close to 75. But it is Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam on iCarly. And it is her tell all of the abuse that she went through from iCarly and her mom. And that's where the title came from. It sold out on Amazon in 3 days. It's sold out on various websites. I can't think of her name, but she was doing a conversation with Jeanette McCurdy, and if you go to it, it's this ticket includes the book, but however, it's sold out everywhere, so you're gonna have to wait a few months until round 2 comes out to get it. And then I ended up not purchasing it because I got the audiobook. But it is very good. It is very the way she tells these stories are just so interesting and self-deprecating humor, but not to the point where it's disturbing. I don't know how to describe it. It's just very, very interesting to see, because we by this time we know childhood stars have gone through hell, especially from our age, and Nickelodeon and Disney are the worst of them. And So she talks a lot about the creator of the show, and she never says his name. She just always calls him the creator, which made it even more creepy. And then I saw an interview with her, and they were like, if your mom was still alive today, would you have written this book? She goes, no, because I was stuck in her orbit. So
Wow.
it is very interesting.
Okay, well, there's still a whole bunch of things here on the list, and we're going to cover it all, and we're still going to be able to get out of here in 2 hours. I promise everybody. So we have a lot of TV shows that also came out, and I know that Gina's seen her share, but so have I. So, Gina, you got into Barry now?
Yeah, so my coworker keep telling me to watch it. So when I went to California, I was there for a long weekend, and on Monday my friend had to go to work, and so I was just left in his house to my own devices. I'm like, well, he has HBO, I'm just going to start watching Barry. And so I started watching it, and then when he got home, he was like, do you want to keep watching your show? Like, that's fine. I'm like, sure. And so we kept watching it, and like together we ended up finishing season 1 like that night, because it's only like 8 episodes and they're only like half an hour long. I still need to watch season 3 for whatever reason. I got home, watched season 2, and then I have yet to watch season 3.
How is Henry Winkler on that show? I'm sure he's dynamite.
So good. It is much more than I thought it was going to be. Like,
That's
I don't
great.
know, like the trailers are misleading, I think, because like I've seen the trailers, with Game of Thrones and like all the other shows. I'm just like, this looks dumb, but my coworker keeps recommending it, so I'm like, okay, I'll finally watch it, and I'm hooked.
I've already DVR'd the first episode of House of the Dragon. I still haven't watched it yet. So
it was good.
I have to watch it. I do. And what is the map of Tiny Perfect Things?
That is another, is it a Netflix movie? No, it might be a Amazon Prime movie. It was another movie that I just saw at random and it looked cute, so I watched it. And so basically it's this Groundhog Day like story, which is another favorite trope of mine. And but these 2 kids are the only 2 who know that they're stuck in a time loop. Everyone else isn't. And so they create this map of all the tiny perfect things that they find, trying to break the time loop.
Cool.
It was fun.
Okay, so 2 shows, one that was on HBO Max and one that was on HBO and HBO Max. I watched. I'm a big fan of Westworld, so season 4 finally hit, and I'm really surprised by the turn that the show has taken. I don't think it was the strongest season. I think the first season will always be the best. However, based on where this specific season ended, I think we're heading into the last season of the show. And quite frankly, I think that that's okay. 5 seasons, that's a good run. Though I will say a show that may not be renewed now because of everything that's going on with HBO Max, there's a show that's on there called Tokyo Vice, starring Ansel Elgort, and it is good. It's based on the true story of a American reporter who's living in Japan, and he gets employed by a Japanese newspaper, and he tries to uncover a story that apparently gets him into the deep tangled web of the Yakuza. So it was very interesting about how he finds a couple things about them and he tries to take them down. It's crazy. And another piece of the story is about this young guy who's in the Yakuza, pretty much climbing up the ranks. And it's very interesting to see how because he's part of the Yakuza, like his family doesn't want to have anything to do with him. He still has a heart, but he knows he has to be a brutal, cold-blooded killer. It's a very interesting show. And again, I'm also a big fan of Ansel Elgort. I mean, I love the movie Baby Driver. That is one of my favorite Edgar Wright films. And so to see that show was very interesting. It's a good noir story, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get renewed based on everything that's going on right now with HBO Discovery. But I also watched the 4th season of Young Justice. Not as good as the previous seasons, but once again, left on a cliffhanger that makes me want a 5th season. But unfortunately, at this point in time, who knows if we're even going to get it.
I started watching that.
It's good.
I'm not very far, but my California friends are real into it, so I started watching it.
It's very good. It's a very interesting take on young superheroes and how they deal with light outside of just being the hero and saving the day. So Gina, you also watched Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it much.
I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, especially after what was the one before it?
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight. I never finished Moon Knight. I couldn't get into it. I think it took too long to figure out what was happening. Like they just kind of jumped in, and it's like I don't read the comics or nothing, so like I was confused as hell. But Ms. Marvel, I didn't mind.
I mean, the thing
I
about
liked all
Ms.
the
Marvel,
culture with it.
I mean, what I think about Ms. Marvel, the best way to describe her is take Spider-Man and make it more cutesy.
Yeah.
It has a very strong first and last episode, but the episodes in between are just like, where are we going with this?
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the big problems right now with the MCU shows, because Kevin Feige, very much like Disney in general, he's like, I am the omnipotent overlord. I can basically make shows and do whatever I want with them, and even know that they suck really bad, but people are going to watch them just because it's got the MCU label on it. And I
Yep.
think that's where they're really struggling right now, because most of the shows that they have made, outside of maybe 2 of them, the rest of them have not been good. However, I am going to say something that may shock a lot of people. I'm already 2 episodes into She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and I kind of like it.
I see, that's one that I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this. So I haven't started watching it yet.
You know what? I think it's a show that doesn't take itself seriously. It's very campy, and for some strange reason, I am literally eating it up. I'm just like, I'm
Yeah, I've heard
entertained
good
by
things.
it. I am just being entertained by it right now, and I'm already 2 episodes in. Okay, so as a person who works at the aquarium, how much more exciting is Shark Week to you?
So exciting. Like I liked Shark Week initially before working at the aquarium, but working at the aquarium and actually being able to talk about it with my coworkers was really fun. And so like I put it on the list to specifically talk about, there was this one documentary about this diver who loved to dive, and then COVID hit and he couldn't dive for 2 years because COVID, and he finally got back out there, and like he went into the tank and everything, and went down and got to do everything, and then the next day they were like 10 minutes out on the water and he just started acting weird, and like everyone's like, what is happening? And they actually he started having a stroke, and they had to, luckily they were only 10 minutes out in the water, otherwise he probably would have died. And so the rest of the documentary was about like his recovery and how he's learning how to speak again, and like the only things that he could remember how to say after being in the hospital was shark and his wife's name.
Wow.
Like that is how important sharks were to this guy. I don't remember his name off the bat. I should have wrote it down, but it was very, very good. And then of course the Jackass Shark Week special is always fun.
So I am a big comic book fan, but I don't know anything about the book or the show Umbrella Academy.
Oh,
So you're watching season 3 now.
yeah, it's so good. I have the comics and I haven't read them yet, but I know that they've like veered from them in the show. And like the good thing about this one, even if you don't watch the show, you need to go watch episode 1 of season 3 for the Footloose scene, because it is fantastic. And then like the main thing with that one is they handle Elliot Page's transition in season 3. And so they were Vanya and now they're Victor, and the way they handled his transition was perfect.
Good.
Like it just he walks up to a barbershop and sees like this haircut, goes in, gets the haircut, goes up, and someone like mentions it, and he goes, actually, or I think like one of his brothers says Vanya, and he goes, actually it's Victor. And they go, since when? And he goes, forever, I think. And that was it. Like they didn't dwell on it. Like everyone was like real worried about how that was gonna go, but they handled it very well.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because when I made my review for Lightyear, I got someone in the comments saying, I'm really surprised, Steve, that you didn't talk about the fact that Buzz Lightyear's companion was gay. And I was like, I didn't mention it because there was no reason to mention it. And that, you see, that's the thing. We talk about the fact that the LGBTQ stuff gets shoved down our throats, but when it comes to something like they did it in Lightyear, they had it.
Very well done.
They talked about it, and then they just moved on and didn't focus on it. If you keep doing that, then people will probably end up being more accepting of that community. The problem is there's a small group of them that basically say, oh no, it's not representing us unless it's a kid's show and there are 2 same-sex people having sex in front of the kids. That's the weird thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And like also with Umbrella Academy, there was a one point, I'm bad with names, I forget the character's name, but his sister, like the only other sister of it, is like, she was just the main villain of this season. And even when her and Victor were fighting, she never once dead named him, which like was kind of iffy. It's like, is she gonna do it? Because like it kind of felt like she's gonna do it, but like never once they didn't touch that, which was great. It was very well done.
And what is The Bear?
The Bear is so good. It's on Hulu, but it says FX, so I don't know if it was originally on FX and now it's streaming on Hulu. I'm not sure, but it is a TV show all about a kitchen and this chef who comes back from like overseas and like this fancy pants kitchen that he was running to run his family diner after his parents die. And so it's the battle between him and his brother of like wanting to keep things the same, but he wants to like make it better. And it's all done like from the back of house in the kitchen. And people have said that have worked in kitchens and like food places that it is very triggering for them because it's so true. And like they did it very well. It is a very stressful show to watch, but it is very well done, especially episode 7 because it is done in one take.
Wow.
Like the first 2 minutes have some cuts, but the rest of it, one take. And it is the most stressful episode of the season.
Look alive, Stacy, because I've saved the best for last. Because I think it actually is the best of this entire laundry list of TV shows. Stranger Things season 4.
Right on.
So good.
Right on.
Okay, that whole season, even with first of all, the cliffhanger episode.
Mm-hmm.
That episode blew my fucking mind. I was like, oh my God, we finally have the link.
Mm-hmm.
We never knew what linked 11 to the other dimension, and we finally got it. Thanks to Jamie Campbell Bower.
Phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Love him in that episode. I must have been like completely in under a rock, but it was like I'm pretty sure that social media was talking about how he was in that show, and I didn't even pay attention to any of it. And I'm just watching it, and I'm like, that is Jamie Campbell Bower. I know that is.
I didn't see anything about it until like I was watching. I was like, oh, I love him. Like I think people sleep on him because like he doesn't do main roles, and like this is really finally giving him the credit he deserves because he's in so much and he always gives 100% to everything he does. Like his role in Twilight, I love. His role in Sweeney Todd, I love. Like,
yeah,
he is fantastic.
I mean, how hilarious! Oh yeah, don't forget that small role he has in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Yep. Like he's been in everything, and like everyone just sleeps on him because he's always a side character.
Yeah. What is that, Stacey?
The Metallica scene.
Yeah.
Did you know that now Metallica suddenly is increasing in popularity right now amongst young kids?
But yeah, that scene, that was probably the best scene of television I've ever had. Like, I was glued. I was like heavy breathing at the screen. Like, this is the best thing ever.
Well,
my son's looking at me. I'm like, you don't understand. It was amazing.
Well, one of the things that Stranger Things has done, and I don't know if they did it in the first season, why I really need to watch the first season. What they've always done is they've taken a big iconic piece of popular culture in one episode to basically say, this is how you know this is taking place in such and such year. In the second season, they purposely focused on Ghostbusters. In season 3, they had them sneak into the movie theater while Back to the Future was playing. I was like, oh, what are they going to do? What are they going to do for 1986? Master of Puppets comes out that year, and Eddie plays it. I'm like, wow. I was like, because that is my favorite Metallica song. I love Master of Puppets.
Right? Who doesn't? Like, it gave me chills to see him on the band doing that. I was just
knowing he mostly played the whole song himself.
Yes.
Like he said that there was a guitarist there to like help with the like dirty gritty of the solo, but the rest of it was him.
I just love the fact that now there are a whole bunch of kids in this world walking around listening to Metallica and wearing t-shirts that say the Hellfire Club on it, because the Hellfire Club is actually an X-Men reference.
My Hellfire Club shirt shipped. It should be here soon.
I'm not gonna get that.
My husband played Dungeons and Dragons, so we
the Dungeons and Dragons scene with the basketball scene was fantastic.
Yeah, that was very well done. That was
edited so good.
Yeah, and I loved that Lucas's sister was in on that one as Lady Applejack. Lady Applejack was amazing.
And I'm this and this, and Eddie's just like, okay.
No,
Yeah, me and my work friends are gonna be the older kids for Halloween.
That's awesome. No, I will definitely say the standout performance outside of Eddie in that season, without a doubt, is Maya Hawke. I love her as Robin on that show. She
Yeah.
and Nancy played off of each other beautifully.
Yeah, they did.
But I
Sadie
wasn't.
Sink is also
Oh, I love
great.
Sadie Sink. The only thing is, I was actually having an argument about this with my sister because she's a big fan of Stranger Things. I did not care for the Hopper storyline. I didn't care for that whole thing in Russia. I was bored.
I loved Russia.
I was
Everything
bored.
about Russia.
I liked it.
I was
Oh,
bored.
it's so good.
I liked it. Enzo. Oh,
I was so bored by it. I really was.
I preferred the Russian scenes to the stuff in America.
Well, that, I mean, like, also some people didn't care for the whole storyline with Mike and Will and Jonathan.
yeah, that's
like,
the stuff
nobody
that
really
I
cared
was
for that.
bored with.
Although I kind of love the scene with pineapple on pizza.
I love Argyle. Argyle's great.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I thought Mike was really annoying in this season. Like
Mike's
the whole-
annoying almost every
Finn
season.
Wolfhard needs to get a haircut.
my
Yeah.
least favorite character. He was really annoying in this whole season. Yeah, all the stuff. I loved Winona and Murray.
Yeah,
Like,
Murray was
Their
great this
relationship,
year.
like Murray was cracking me up. He was hysterical. And what was the other guy? The Russian guy
Enzo.
flying the plane. Like that whole
Enzo, he was
relationship.
great.
No, not Enzo. Not
Yep.
Enzo. The guy flying the plane.
Right. The other one. I'm bad with names.
Some of the Russian names.
Right.
I loved all of that. They were so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just didn't grab me for some strange reason. But
And
no,
they also played the whole Will and like Jonathan like really like focusing on I'm realizing what's happening here, and then going to him being like, hey, you know I love you, right? Like, you're my brother. Like, I really liked that aspect of the whole California crew.
Yeah. I mean, all in all, the season, for as long as we had to wait for that season to come out, I think at the very end, I think that they truly delivered. I really think that, because, there are so many times when we have waited for certain things, and then when we finally get them, they just fall flat. A perfect
It helps
example.
that they were long episodes. Like all these Disney
Yeah.
Plus shows, they're like, oh, it's going to be limited series, but they're going to be long, and then they're 45 minutes. It's like, this isn't long. Like, give me
and
an
it's
hour
not
and a half
even-
long episode.
Yeah, I mean, like the last episode of the season was like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's good to know that we waited for this and we literally got everything that we wanted, and now it's just getting us all the more excited for the last season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unfortunately, we have to wait 2 years for it. But the only thing that I'm hoping for is that they continue to bring out seasons 3 and 4 on physical media, because I have the first 2 seasons, and I would really like to get seasons 3 and 4 because I do want to rewatch those seasons. I really, really do.
I just rewatched season 3 like last month. We were babysitting a girl and she hadn't seen it, so we watched it.
I don't remember a thing about season 3 except for the mall. That's the only thing that I remember.
One of my friends just started watching it from the beginning. And so like she kept texting me like, oh, this part, and I'd be like, uh-huh. Because it's been so long since I've watched any of them. Just like, uh-huh.
So my favorite scene in the whole episode, of course, is from Eddie, and it's when they're trying to find music, and Robin is like yelling, "Do you have this or this or this?" He goes, "You don't have anything music," and then he holds up.
This is music.
But it's because it's an 8-track of Iron Maiden's "Peace of Mind," which is one of Iron Maiden's greatest albums, and I'm like, "You're fucking right, that's music."
Yep.
I'm going to see Iron Maiden in October for the second time. I am so excited to see them. They are one of the best bands in all of heavy metal. But again, I kind of love the fact that young generations are now listening to Metallica. Maybe they will actually discover all those other great Maiden bands. It would be great to see kids walking around, saying, hey, you want to know what one of the greatest bands of all time is? 9 Inch Nails. Like, yes, thank you. My generation is finally getting their justice. But anyway, I think that it's going to call a night, everybody. We're going to wrap it up. It was great to see everybody and talk to everybody again. And I'm hoping that we will all see each other soon. And I really hope you all enjoyed the show. So until then, everybody, we will see you all in the next one.
If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.